not the fortunate ones, but girls, they wanna have fun. Oh, girls just wanna.
I'm a Gen Xer, which means that the song, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, was something of an anthem for my friends and me when we were kids. Sung by Cyndi Lauper. The video, made for the new MTV network, features a young woman in Brooklyn explaining to her baby boom or maybe silent generation parents that times have changed. While her father seeks chastity and her mother is sewing and baking in the kitchen, Cyndi is frolicking in the streets, talking on the phone, and packing her bedroom with so many people dancing, they come spilling out. It's joyful, and long after the song was released, girls and young women repeated that line over and over to each other. Girls just want to have fun. A few years ago, in honor of International Women's Day, I started this annual series, What Women Want. And fun may not be the only thing we want, but it's definitely part of it. But if we're going to have fun, we're going to need some changes in our systems. Young women are both discounted and dismissed, maybe seen as frivolous rather than ferocious. Frankly, old women suffer a similar fate, being not only discounted and dismissed, but also made entirely invisible. Has anyone here seen the new Matlock?
Yes.
Some of you are watching it? Okay. If you're not watching it, maybe it's really very good. Anyway, so it's Kathy Bates. And she's 76 years old, and she's playing this ruthless lawyer hiding in plain sight. Someone nobody sees coming because of her gray hair. The assumptions made about middle-aged women allow her to fade into the walls, to be consistently underestimated, even by her closest colleagues. And I know I'm talking about young women today, but I have to tell you this story because it's so stuck in my head. I mean, it was a few years ago that I heard this. The UUA moderator, meaning the person leading the UUA board and running our business meetings at General Assembly. So this is a power position, without question. So she was doing a little kind of internal growth work. She decided to set herself up to be rejected. That was her work. That she wanted to be practiced in the art of being turned away. She was actually preparing, she said, for some major fundraising work, and she thought she was going to need to build the muscle of being told no and then go to the next person. So her experiment, or the way she was engaging this spiritual work, is that she was knocking on people's doors. She just knocked on the door, and without explanation, she would ask them if she could come in, and if she could walk through their house and go look at their backyard. So obviously, nobody is going to let a stranger do that. So she was sure that she would get plenty of experience in rejection and would push through and knock on the next door, right? That was the task for her. But it's not what happened. She's also a gray-haired woman in her 70s. Reverend Riley was invited in over and over again. Right? She would be making this unreasonable request to strangers. And she would knock and say, "Can I come in? And I want to go through and I want to go look at your backyard." And they would say, "Sure, come on in." And she realized, going into all these people's homes, that they didn't see her as a threat. They didn't see her at all. That she could easily walk into people's houses, often unaccompanied, and just right into their backyards. So here's something most women can attest to. The age of invisibility comes almost immediately after the age of immaturity. Society deems women too young to be competent, to be taken seriously, too young to be successful, too young to be professional, until we're about 40 years old. Now at 40 you could have 20 years experience in your career, but you are amateur until you are 40, maybe 41, 42. And at that point, we can be seen and heard. But that has a shelf life of at most 5 years. Because at 45, we've become too old. While men are in their prime, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, women can't get hired, can't get published, can't be heard in the public square because we're no longer relevant after peak childbearing years. And since we're dismissed as silly little girls during peak childbearing years, those of us who identify as female are culturally marginalized most of our lives by all genders. And yet, women and girls are ferocious. Dismiss us at your peril. At the age of 16, Greta Thunberg had already launched a global climate movement powered by teenagers. Furious that adults were distracted by profit and convenience or paralyzed by political expediency and dreams of personal wealth, Greta harnessed the anger of young people who took to the streets in the hundreds of thousands in multiple nations repeatedly. Impossible to ignore, she was invited to the United Nations. Her speech, written and delivered entirely by her, standing not quite 5 feet tall in the halls of power, she admonished the leaders of the international order. She did it publicly and as big as a 4'11" girl might do. Time Magazine's 2019 Person of the Year, winner of the prestigious Right Livelihood Award, and named Amnesty International's Ambassador of Conscience at 16, Greta was also listed by Forbes magazine as one of the most powerful women in the world. Girls just want to have fun. And you know what? That part is true. I bet Greta did want to have fun. She wanted, like everyone else, to relax on the beach or go on a hike or read a good book by a fire, maybe talk with your girlfriends about it over dinner. We don't want to learn that we're too young or too old, or that what we want or need is dismissed because of our gender. We can imagine a new world, a better world, an equitable world. All of us can imagine that. And given the right set of circumstances, regardless of how seriously modern society takes us, we are going to do our best to realize our vision, a place where girls and women have what they need and have time for fun to boot. We can all imagine a better world, visions that propel us forward, but there's also a drawback to indulging those daydreams. When humans imagine something better, we can become discontented with what we already have. It's actually the risk of a sermon like this one. If I want you all to feel great, I shouldn't really talk about what's not right, because you might start feeling unsatisfied or unhappy with the current situation. If I want you to be delighted this afternoon, it's safer for me to not even talk about the dream of what's possible. But we'll never get to where we want to go if we don't name the things that aren't working. Nietzsche tells us that the primary way humans manage discontent is to feel guilty about wanting things to be better. We judge ourselves and each other for not loving our current situations or wanting more. It's one of the reasons we dismiss young women as being frivolous. We are judging them both for enjoying their lives and for expecting the world to help them create something better. Possibly as a result of our response to discontent, we judge and attempt to control key parts of the human experience. We villainize sex, our will for power, our capacity for joy, allowing only a limited number of socially acceptable ways for us to indulge these human experiences. And from that judgmental stance, we've created a culture of hall monitors, people watching and determining whether or not we're playing within bounds. There's a push for conformity in every culture, and how we play, how we enjoy ourselves, how we find fun is often at the center of what we want to control. Throughout history, we see people pushing the boundaries, whatever they are, right? Speakeasies were very popular when drinking was illegal. Teenagers have been sneaking cigarettes since an age limit was put on them. Every generation finds a way to dance closer to each other than our parents did. While sex clubs and prostitution have been with us from the beginning of civilization. We want fun. We want more. We push to see what we can get away with. And we judge and patrol each other in every country, in every generation. Historically, girls have been the most policed. We keep our girls in very small boxes, doing our best to control them, to keep them in line. The consequences of this can be dire, but I actually think the sexist system, reaching across cultures and through time, originated with the consent of women. We understood our power and agreed to what would have started as legitimate protection. This social construct has reached its limits, but some feminist philosophers and sociologists have suggested that women were full partners in the creation of patriarchal systems, limiting options for girls to ensure the perpetuation of the race. We have always understood the value of the uterus for human survival. Dr. Michael Carlson wrote in Psychology Today that, and I'm quoting him here, the sensible evolutionary basis for this focus on girls is that sperm is cheap and uterus access is scarce. So much of what passes for politics involves an argument about who controls the uterus. The ability to propagate the species is powerful, and politics is often about gaining or managing or limiting power. So I want to say this clearly. While many of us suffer from social limitations, we are also the ones creating them. We are both the prisoners and the guards. So girls might want to have fun, but society has other priorities. Even over time, as population has exploded, we've kept girls in small boxes. And now, as population declines, we are again raising alarms about girls and the freedoms they seem to be demanding, because if girls are free, we lose control. When Malala was a child in the mountains of Pakistan, she wanted to dream her future the way her brothers did. Boys could be what they wanted, but girls had far fewer opportunities, and those opportunities all came at the end of a solid education. So she committed herself to going to school. When the Taliban moved into Pakistan and tried to close the schools for girls, locals defiantly kept them open. At 15, Malala was interviewed as a local girl who was still going to school. Now, 4 years after the ban on education for girls. In this seemingly irrelevant blog, she talked about her hopes for herself as the result of her schooling. The Taliban, not able to kill this dream of an education and not populous enough to close every school, they decided to make an example of a few girls, creating terror for all the families in the region. This one 15-year-old girl was targeted as an activist because of that blog and was shot in the head while riding home on a school bus. She survived after massive interventions and has become a voice for girls' education the world over. Instead of silencing her, they gave her an amplifier and a global stage on which she earned a Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17. Police our bodies, judge our behavior, gun us down if you can't control us. In this country, reproductive rights are under attack, a nearly national attempt at removing the right to self-determination for women and girls. And with that outsized value placed on people of childbearing age, the Vice President of the United States declared postmenopausal women entirely unnecessary as a group, with one saving grace: they can help care for grandchildren. So it's no wonder that Dancy Lauper is singing in the streets, staying out till dawn, assuring her father she loves him, but she and all her friends really just want to have some fun. We all do, because we are the victims and the perpetrators. We have built this system, and we are the ones who can break it down, starting by having some fun and letting others have their fun too. We can do it by seeing each other, by respecting people regardless of gender or age. People are snippy right now. I've seen it, you've seen it, short-tempered, demanding, unreasonable, self-righteous. Maybe for Lent, we let it go. We stop monitoring other people, stop requiring others to serve us, stop speaking when we should be listening. For Lent this year, maybe we bring kindness and a generosity of spirit to our encounters as part of our spiritual practice. And when we see girls in the streets dancing or skipping through the neighborhood, we can just let them and ourselves have a little fun.